Hey there, this is Tanner Steed. Welcome to our first newsletter video. Today we are going to be talking about varnishing. I'm going to be using a product by Gamblin called GamVar. I have two different options in my hands. One is gloss and the other one is matte. I definitely prefer the gloss though. And the reason for that is all of the darks become much darker, and they take on the appearance of the original paint quality after I put the final brush stroke down on the painting. It's almost the equivalent of putting a stone into a river and then looking at that stone again while it's wet. The color becomes more saturated and the darker stones will actually look even darker than they are. So it's almost like putting a thin coat of water on top of your painting. The other materials that you'll need are, you don't really need a fancy brush. I just use these cheap, either a bristle chip brush or a cheap synthetic. Really doesn't matter. You're going to need something to place your painting down onto. You don't want to put it directly onto the painting, or put your painting directly onto a table. And that's because if the varnish comes off of the painting and ends up on your table, it'll make it really, really sticky. But it is removable if that does happen. You just use a little bit of Gamsol, another Gamblin product, or any mineral spirits, and you can just wipe that away. You can also use, or you're also going to need some paper towels, and let's get started. Alright, so I've got my painting here of the firehouse in Georgetown, Colorado. Something I forgot to mention is that you need to make sure that your painting is completely flat and not at an angle. And the reason is because our GamVar, our gloss varnish, will dry pretty quickly. And so if it's up at a tilt, the gloss or the varnish that is over here will start to run down and create a lip at a certain part of your painting. And that'll dramatically impact the look of the painting, and you're not going to like the results because you'll have a glare wherever that tilt is. So I've selected just a simple synthetic brush, and again the gloss varnish. It's my favorite, and you will see why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour just a little bit in the middle. We want to make sure that it's as thin as possible, and that's because if we need to remove it later, it shouldn't be too much of a hassle if we have to remove the layer of gloss with just a little bit of mineral spirits. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pour a tiny bit in the middle, and you'll immediately be able to see where it is. And it dries quickly, so you have to move fast. So I'm just going to go straight out like this. Certain parts are more obvious. In this one, I'd say it's a bit more subtle. You'll really notice in the darker areas. I'm going to add just a little bit more. We want to move quick. It does dry quickly. And if you ever notice that any hairs are left on the painting surface, you're going to want to make sure to pick those up. And the way you do that is, let's say there was a hair right here, I would go down with my brush opposite to the painting, and you can just kind of scoop it up, grab it, put it on your paper towel. And brushing up and down, side to side, getting an even, really nice and thin coat. Some paintings are more dramatic than others in the color shifts. It can be really, really obvious. which can be exciting if you're doing this for a client. You just want to make sure that you have even coverage. And the way I check if I have good coverage is I look at it from an angle, and if you have some kind of light source, a window nearby, or a light, you'll actually be able to see the glare, and you want that glare all over the painting, because that means the varnish has covered the entire surface. And it's that simple. You just let this dry for about an hour. Now the fumes are kind of stinky and not good for you to breathe, so put this in a well-ventilated area. I'm going to be putting it in our second bedroom with the windows open, and yep, that's it.